Mexican restaurant down here, and it's a Sunday afternoon. It's about like 3:30 or 4 o'clock. We drive up, pull up, and she goes, I'll go in and get it. I'll run and get it. Okay. So I'm sitting there in the parking lot, and Sunday afternoon, I'm not thinking. And I look, and she comes out of this restaurant, and she's carrying a gallon jug. And initially I said, wow, I wonder if that's tea or, it looks like Mountain Dew or tea or something. It didn't dawn on me that they would sell margaritas by the gallon. And so she brings a gallon of margaritas in, and, I tried to use a little cup, but apparently if you keep going and filling it up, it
doesn't matter how small it is.
Carrie at our office told me the next morning I had drinker's remorse or something, and I ended up quitting for a good little run there just to try to make myself feel better.
Well, I could be politically correct today and use my thing. You see what it says, right?
Oh, that's awesome. Go Chiefs.
Exactly.
I think we're safe. I don't think you can catch the coronavirus yet through the computer, although I think I read something about it. It may have morphed in. May all be infected.
So far, you read all the news, but like the clinics in Blue Springs and Lee Summit, where I had to have a blood test every 6 months. So I went to get my blood test. They had all this stuff set up. Not one person there. When I went in to get my blood test, they stopped me at the door, took my temperature, did all this stuff. I was the only person in this 3-story building of all medical people, the only person. Wow. And one of the doctors that we know at St. Luke's East, which is in Lee Summit, a big one, they've only had 13 hospitalizations. And that's like the biggest hospital probably within 20 miles. And so it's just kind of crazy. So much is out there, you don't know what's real and what's not.
I know.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta be empathetic.
Yeah, whenever you guys are ready, we can roll.
We're ready.
You ready?
I am.
I'm going to share my screen.
I'm trying to enlarge it. I realize it's your whole screen. I'm like, what happened to all my desktop?
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody has figured out as many, enough Zoom tips and tricks by now that we don't need this screen. But if we're all using it as much as we should be, we won't need it. We want to start out just by making sure that
I'm not sure
if you do need help, you can reach out to Kaylin. I still hear some noise going on, but reach out to Kaylin if you need help, or text her. We'll try to help you.
Okay.
Kaylin, you want to flip, or David, you want to flip screens for me?
Flip to what?
Just to the next one. I just want to talk about
Did you share?
We want to make sure that everybody realizes that we had sponsors lined up to help.
I'm not sure if they're hearing me.
Josie, we can hear you and see you.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I can't see anybody else, just me.
Do we want to work it like Dennis did yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
If we need to do that, we need to do that. So, Kaylin, if you want to do that, we can, just to help out with that background noise.
Yeah, if everybody can mute their microphone, we will have I don't have control. David has control. But we will have a section at the end, guys, where you guys can ask questions. And then I'm also helping David with running the chat box. So feel free to ask your questions there, and I'll make sure that I get them to him so he can answer them.
Awesome. Hey, we just wanted you guys to know that LASSON's, even after we, dealt with the change in the way we were doing presentations, Michael and Michelle said, look, we're with you. So you guys are doing this work to bring people in to share a message and share ideas. We want to sponsor it. So we just want to give them a big shout out, because that's pretty cool. That is pretty, it's pretty neat that they stayed with that. So First State Bank is our official sponsor today. So we wanted to make sure to acknowledge them. We've talked a lot about David because we have gotten to see him, George and Jason and I get to listen to David often, and we also get to spend a lot of time just one-on-one, and he has been always willing to give of his time and help. He has made an incredible drive. I mean, when did you start in real estate, David? 09? Is that right?
I got my license in 2009.
So from 09 to today, 4 different offices, right? 3 in Kansas City, 1 in Oklahoma.
Correct.
The growth of each office has compounded incredibly since he has taken ownership. So he's listed, he's represented buyers, he's bought offices, opened offices, grown offices, and we're just excited when we get a chance to have someone like you take the time to give us ideas that are outside of our box and outside of what we normally hear. So big thank you to you for today.
Hey,
You guys taught me the way, so.
you know, the very first time we ever went to a class, the first momentum class we ever went to, I had not been with Remax, but for about 5 days, and we go up to this momentum class, and David happens to be in the momentum class, and you had just bought a franchise. Is that correct, David?
Yeah.
So
I was
David
shocked
and
that I even got to be in the room.
You and I were brand new to the brand, and not sure what we were getting into. And there was a group of about, I don't know, 13 or 16 of us. And I was immediately drawn to David just with his, you could see his drive and his heart for his people, and just brings so much to the Mid-States region and really all over. That corporate is actually using David now to go around and train. So we're excited to have you, buddy. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a great relationship. So wish we were closer.
Yeah. Go
You ready to
ahead.
roll?
Yeah.
Perfect. And I need you guys to repeat all that stuff to my agents in Kansas City and Oklahoma, would you?
We would.
Well, you guys all know our whole world, and one of the things I'm very fortunate of is when I started in 2009 that I got to experience the real estate crash in Kansas City, because what happened in those years until, from what I've been told, we bottomed out in Kansas City in December of 2012 has helped prepare me for what we've had happen to us in the last 45 to 60 days. And when that happened, and I watched it in our office and saw it happen, and then as I became an owner of an office, I always thought, what would I do? What will I do when this happens? Because the one thing about real estate is it's very cyclical. Things go up and down, things happen. And when it happens, what are we going to do about it? So today I want to talk about your mindset and some things that maybe you haven't thought about, but I want you to think about. I can tell you personally, when I see things and we can think about it, and you go back in time, you remember the old MLS books, and then we remember everything that we did. When you had an amendment, you had to go run out and meet somebody and get it signed, and then we got electronic signatures, and technology has come into place. And every time that we have these things happen, I think it's a time we either adapt and get better or we fall behind. And honestly, the last probably 7-8 years have been good enough that personally, I probably got lazy. And I got lazy in my expenses. I probably got lazy in my business. And so to me, this has brought me back to center. And this is a challenge to make our offices and our businesses relevant for the next 5 to 10 years. And so that's kind of what we're going to go into and talk about today. And the thing that I see changing is there's going to be a big change to virtual. If it's not already happened to you, it's going to happen, whether we like it or not. And the faster we adapt and become a leader in this segment of the market, the better we're going to be. I've got a really good friend in New York City, and they have been in total lockdown for 30 days, and they have learned to do some virtual things. He just did a virtual open house, and I'm going to go over the different virtual open houses. And he did it virtually, and he had 35 people online and 3 contracts, and that house got sold with a buyer never being in the house. I don't know if you guys do that with your second homes. I know I bought a place on the ocean beachfront, and I did it without seeing it. And so this is now going to become mainstream for people to feel safe. Even when we come out of this and the governor opens up the state, in Kansas City, we're still locked down to the 15th of May. But when it opens up, you're going to see more people wanting virtual services, and we're going to talk about what are those virtual services. And this is a list, and if you guys need the hard copy of this, I can get this to you. But virtual services, what are those things? And in my opinion, you should probably have this as part of your buyer and seller conversations, presentations, whatever you call them. I'm a momentum guy, so it's a conversation. But these should be what you offer to your clients. And what do those look like? How do you do a virtual buyer showing? You know, we laugh and we get on Zoom, and until we get really good with it, I'm still learning Zoom, and I've been using it for over a year. There's training sessions on it, but how do you do a virtual buyer showing and do it virtually? And there's ways to do it. You can go in the house, you can do your own video, you can have a photographer do it. One of the things that's working for us right now, we kind of had Matterport in our market, but the 360-degree photography is becoming huge, because you could actually do a virtual buyer showing with a photography. If you have 360-degree photography, you can take them through every nook and cranny of that house. So we have to start thinking differently. So in my mind, when you go get pictures, your photography done professionally, you should get the 360-degree photography. The other thing that's good about it is if you're doing Zillow, or people are, because Zillow advertises, there is a 360-degree photography button on Zillow, and it gets 200% more views than the other pictures. So another reason to be out there with the virtual stuff. So virtual buyer showing is big. Virtual listing and marketing presentation. Can you do that? Can you do the whole thing? Can you go through those documents? Can you go through the pictures? Do you have, most of us, I used to carry a little book. It's like my marketing, and I would deliver it before a listing. Can you do it digitally? Do you have it on your iPad where you can just drag your iPad around and show it? Can you share the screen and show it? Virtual open house, the same thing. So one way you can do it, and we're just getting ready to do this weekend on my team. I have an agent that's going to do a virtual open house, and you can go, if you go on Facebook, you can go to WRG Virtual Houses on Facebook, and you can watch it. It's at 11 a.m. Saturday, and he is going to be in the house live with him and nobody else. And we're going to try to bring everybody to this site. Our plan is to do it at the same time every Saturday, and so that people get used to knowing that we are going to have a virtual open house every Saturday at 11 a.m. And we're going to pick another time for one of our other agents and do it. That's one way to do it. You can also do it with Zoom. If you have that good photography, you can just do it on Zoom and get everybody into your site, share your screen, and do a Zoom open house. Then all the things that you can do virtually, report to the home inspection, an investor meeting. We have a couple of agents in our office that have virtual, well, they don't have virtual now. They had buyer seminars where we have a great training room, and they would advertise it. One of them did it every second Tuesday of the month. Another one was on Thursdays, where we would have buyer seminars. Banks would sponsor. We'd have lender, we'd have inspector, insurance, and we'd make a big deal of it, serve a meal. Well, they've lost that business, so they thought. But now we can do a virtual buyer seminar. How do you do it? What's the steps? What about a virtual seller seminar? You can do that. Think about senior citizens. Look what they're faced with right now. What about having a seminar to help seniors make the switch? to either nursing home or 55 plus housing, or how do you do that? How do you downsize? There are so many seminars that you can have right now, and everybody is becoming comfortable with Zoom. And there's other ones out there. You can do some other things. There's some Facebook time that you can use, just different things, but whatever it is that you can share and be on the screen with people, Google Hangouts, or just all kinds of things. Virtual closings. I don't know if you guys are doing that yet, but we are. The people might come here to close, they might stay home to close, and if they come here, they sit in a screen and our title sits somewhere else, and they do virtual closing. A lender meeting with your lender, you can get set up so that you can all be on the screen sharing. Virtual tour of important locations. You think about all the things at the lake, and you think of, when I think of the lake, I think of the mile markers and what's at each mile marker. Where's Party Cove? Where's all the things that you hear about? And so you could do a virtual getting to know the area. And I don't know if anyone's doing that in your area, but that would be fantastic with all the second home buyers that you have that don't live there year round. And just do, you just think of all of the things that you have in your area that you could do virtually. This isn't exhaustive, but think out of the box right now, because this is where it's headed. And I saw a stat that in the US, April 1st through April 15th, 20% of all closings that have happened, the buyers have never stepped foot in the property. And so I'm already getting pushback. I'm hearing it from some of the people in my office, like, oh, I would never do that. I would never have my client do that. I would not be limiting myself with that kind of belief right now, because just right now we have 3 closings that are going on in this before the end of April, and all 3 of them they have never seen inside the house. This is coming, and you're either going to adapt and go with it and get good at it, or you're going to lose opportunity for business. Questions, comments on those virtual services? If you guys will hit the chat box, and Kaylin will grab the questions for me.
No questions yet.
No questions, we good?
Yep.
So here's what something could look like, and this is one that we use. So it's virtual home buying program, so that we actually put this on a card so that we can send this out. And that way, the more people get familiar with it, the more they hear about it. So it starts out with a virtual consultation. Then we have home favorites, things that match. Then we'll do virtual tours of them. I think all of your listings, if you guys will all do virtual tours, and I mean take your phones, video, and maybe you have an office Facebook site of all the virtual tours. And then you guys, what's happened in our office as we've grown is there's a lot of co-op deals that happen within the office. It never gets out of our office, which I love those. They go smoother, they're easier, same title, it's much simpler. But what if you had an office site and that's all it is your all's virtual tours? Every house you go in, take a virtual tour. Electronic signatures, earnest money delivery, you can wire earnest money, inspections, those all come to where you can do that virtual. Closing time, welcome home, you can do it all with no touch. And I'm starting to see a lot of advertisements about no contact. We have Papa Murphy's Pizza here, and I like Papa Murphy's Pizza. And Tuesday night, they used to have a $10 deal, now it's $12. But on my way home, I stop and pick up Papa Murphy's. It's no touch. My wife orders it, pays for it. I pull up, they tell them what I drive. I open the back door of the truck, and they put the pizza in, and I drive off. And that's where we're headed. How can you do that? We need to be able to do that, because people will feel safe, and they need to feel safe if we're going to have them out doing things. And a lot of people are just scared. They're fearful, and we need to help take that fear away from them. And we can do that with some of the things that we do. Questions, comments?
Melissa said, I love the idea of virtual open houses. Even with high-end homes, you could do a cocktail hour of a meet and greet, say on a Friday late afternoon, start at 4, take them through a tour, and maybe even do a personal invite to emails on certain subdivisions, golf communities, condo complexes, etc.
Yeah, it's set up perfect for the way you guys are at the lake, from looking from the outside with all the distance. And I would think that when you want to go from one area to the lake of another, there's no straight road to get there, that there's quite a bit of drive time that people can save. I also think that we can take this, and so many times, when the internet came, we weren't out showing 20 houses. It got down to you would show 5 to 10. I think this takes us down to where we're going to show 1 to 3 or 4 houses and have it done. So I think this just helps us save a lot of time. You think about a virtual open house, no signs to put out, no signs in the yard, don't have to be there early. There's so many things you don't have to do when you can go do it online. And you think how many open houses you could do virtual versus being there in person. So, and I'm not saying you can't still do them. Right now, we're not able to in Kansas City. So it's forced us, you either sit home and do nothing, or you figure out something else that works. And so I think one thing that realtors are good at is learning their way around. Give us the rules and let us figure out how to make it work. And you look at sales in our country, because our market's still going, and it's because of the adaptability of the realtors to figure out, all right, here's what you told me I can't do. Now, how can I figure out how to do that in a different way? And that's great for us because we have a lot of people who figured out. So I think one of the problems that we face is, and one of the things, and you've probably heard this a lot because there's been a lot of conversation about it, but when you get on the telephone, number one, you should call everybody in your SOI and just check on them. And there's been a lot of conversation. And what's that conversation sound like? The phone call goes like this: how are you? Are you staying healthy? Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you need toilet paper? Do you need anything that I can help you with? That's the conversation. Don't talk about real estate. They will bring up real estate if they want to bring up real estate. And if you're like most people, they all have an interest. Hey, what's going on in your world? They want to know. So it's, to me, this is the easiest call I've ever made in my life, whether it's with our agents or with clients, because it's time to be a real person and don't judge, have no judgment. I always say, it's a momentum term, stay in curiosity. Just stay curious. And how can you help them and serve them? And it's letting you be a real person and show that you care. And so I think we make a mistake right now if we don't call everybody in our SOI. And I'm going to say you call them every month or every 3 weeks and just continue to offer services. And so after the first call, what do you say? So I'm going to give you some other things here to talk about when you make these outreach calls. Update their property on Zillow. I don't know if you all know this, but if you have a property and you're worried about an appraisal or you're worried about pricing, if you update the property on Zillow, you can raise the value that shows up in some of the searches. And the other thing that's crazy is if you raise the neighbors' prices on Zillow, you can raise the Zestimate on the house that you may be listing or interested in. But what if you just went and offered to help them with the value of their home on all of the internet sites that we have access to, and just update their information? Maybe they finished their basement. Maybe they added a bathroom or a bedroom. So when you make this secondary calls on outreach, what about the property value? Think of what in Kansas City, we had an absolute mess with property taxes. We still have appeals that haven't even been returned yet. So we in Kansas City had to pay the taxes no matter what they put them at, and we're still appealing. My commercial building tripled in value according to our county, and I would sell it right now with no questions asked and pull out because it's outrageous. But I'm still waiting on that appeal decision. So property value. What about closing paperwork for their tax returns? Some people, and that got delayed, and maybe there's an opportunity. Hey, have you got your taxes filed yet? Do you need a copy of that closing paperwork for your CPA or whatever? Square footage for closing records. What about mortgage payment deferral? What's going on in that market? And if you guys are paying attention to that, 60 days, you can't foreclose. 60 days, you can't kick a renter out. So what happens to that? Do they have to pay it? Is it just deferred? You need to know so you can have that conversation, but it's in deferral. How good is that for your client? You need to have, those are great discussions that make you not a realtor, but a consultant and an expert. You're not selling, you're in a whole different place with your client. rent payment issues, property value. How about staging? How about online staging? All kinds of things. Virtual staging. You can take an empty house and make it look like it's full of furniture. You might discuss refinancing. Look at where prices are right now for loans. I mean, we're still in the low threes, and it's bounced around a lot. We've seen FHA requirements go up and down with credit scores, and one day it went up 100. And so there's a lot of things that are going on right now. I tell everybody, I don't know if I've ever worked as hard as I have the last 45 to 60 days with the business the way it is, because we've had to really get educated and skilled in some things that we've not had to get skilled in before. And so there's all kinds. You just think, and like I said, this isn't exhaustive, but you think of all of the places that you can go with something of value. What are those? And are there things at the lake that make that different? Anybody have any ideas that where you guys have something like this that's different than maybe some of the other markets? No?
I would say, can we hear us?
Yep.
I would, anything that has to do with Ameren, maybe they need help getting their, maybe they're doing something with their dock, maybe they need a permit, maybe they need a new permit. What would be some other things here specific to the lake?
That's a great one, because I hadn't thought about that for the lake, but I even hear clear up here in Kansas City about the dock stuff and things at the lake, the arguments over who owns docks and just different things.
The electric, getting the making sure if you're getting ready to list and it's a lakefront home, making sure you're having a conversation about the electric and making sure that that you can be the person that helps them get that. You've got contacts. There's lots of things.
And so those are just great conversations that so many times when we're listing or selling that we blow through. Sometimes we do what we have to do, but we don't give any depth to that conversation. And this is a time where we get to go. What's been crazy is I've made so many relationships better than they've ever been because I have taken the time to talk to these people. And what's crazy is a lot of times when we're trying to call people, they never answer the phone. Guess what? They're answering the phone right now or the text because they're desperate to talk to somebody besides their kids or their spouse because they've been stuck at home. And we're social people. If you look at most realtors, the number one trait is a high I. We're out there, we're social, we crave that. And we've had that taken away from us. And people are sitting at home and man, there's nothing on television. I need somebody to talk to. I need a relationship.
Mel,
Aylin, anything else?
I was going to say, Mel said that you could even let them know what services are open, maybe even telling them that gas stocks are available and which ones those are.
Right now, everybody's doing takeout on the dock, so letting them know which restaurants are doing that, where they're located. Everybody and their brothers down here on their boat, so.
Mm-hmm.
That's something they can go do.
Absolutely.
A cool thing, and we've been trying to organize it, we just can't seem to organize it, is to do lunch at one of the takeout places so they know that 30 RE/MAX people came through, supported their restaurant, take a picture, and make that a social event. There's so many things that we can do to let them know that we're supporting them because we want those restaurants to stay open. Because I'm pretty tired of eating at home, to be honest with you, and I'm pretty tired of not being able to go eat with my friends and shoot the breeze or do any of that stuff. Yeah, and I grew up with sports, which you'll find out more about later, but I miss that because what I like to watch on TV, I mean, right now, if it wasn't for the Michael Jordan deal on Sunday nights, I'd be dying. But that's been fabulous because it's not a rerun and it's something with sports.
Carrie said that you could do a video of what social distancing is looking like at public places to be informative.
Absolutely. Be informative is a key piece. All right. Here's some other ones. analyze an investment property. How many people have you sold investment property to at the lake? How's it performing? That's a great service. I had a guy that he knew I owned rentals, and he had a property management company, and he came in one day and he goes, can you spend an hour with me? I want to go through my books and just look at something. I said, sure. So we did, and he left them with me, and he had 14 duplexes. And he came back, and I said, did you know that your property manager bought a zero-turn 60-inch mower through your account? And he goes, no, he didn't. And I go, yeah, he did. He bought a trailer too. And I showed it to him, and he was really upset. 2 years later, he comes to me. I sold all 14 duplexes, and he didn't want them to list them. He wanted me to find the buyers. I double-ended 14 duplexes with one client that I gave a service to, all about his investment property. That's how those things work. And it was fantastic. But your vendors, do you have a vendor list? Are you sharing it? Because people, when we're at home and we're stuck at home, you kind of notice the things that, oh yeah, I haven't fixed that need done. Get your vendor list up to date. Share your vendor list with people. If you guys have a moving truck, and I don't know if you do or don't, market data. Everybody wants to know what's going on with the market. It was interesting to me. The Blue Springs put a big, we have a little paper here that's like 4 or 5 days a week in Blue Springs. And they put out this huge ad about the housing market. And it wasn't really great. And I thought, man, that's not good for us to have this kind of information, because it wasn't correct and it wasn't interpreted correct. But people want to know. You can make it neighborhood specific. You can tell them what's going on in the broad market across the country. You know, I think we're very fortunate in where we are, because we're being able to work around a lot of things. And I've heard people being off 40, 50%. That's not our market. I would say that's probably not the lake market either. But let them know if you can help them. You know, groceries, anything you can do to be of service. If they need masks, gloves. I carry a box of like 200 gloves in my vehicle. I carry sanitizer. Get hand sanitizer, little ones, and hand them out. There's just so many things that we can offer help and services. Kayla, anything else there?
Not yet.
Okay. So we all, sometimes we can look at things and read things and we all know what to do. But I think the big issue is do it. We had a little thing, I did a thing for a while where we went through this do it now, and we got the little wristbands and it said do it now on it. And we would wear those because, in my opinion, the people who implement the fastest, that are first ones to the market, end up being a market expert in that, and they have an advantage. And so, in my opinion, with what we're facing right now, we need to learn the virtual game so that we're capable of doing it. So how do we be accountable? And you can use this, look at yourself or your teams, but these are some things that we use. 20 texts a day, because they're answering text. Text is probably better than picking up the phone in some cases, especially on certain age brackets. We do some things where in our SOIs, we try to determine our top 50. So have you touched your top 50? And then have you touched them on Facebook? You know, have you really done the homework on your SOI? But your top 50 is going to be the 50 people most likely to do business with you or recommend you to somebody in this year. And they get a special treatment than anybody else in my SOI. They get the pop buys, and the next pop buy that we have coming out for our top 50 on my team is the little where you have the ketchup, mustard, and relish packet for the grilling out. And we'll leave that on the front porch, take a picture and text it to them. Let them know we stopped by. Note cards or cards. That's huge. How many of those do you send out? I don't know if you guys know John Mayfield out of St. Louis. He is religious, and when he travels and speaks, he sends 2 note cards a day, every day, and he carries them in his briefcase, so he never misses a day, even when he's on the road. But are you sending things out to people? How many hours did you prospect? Are you measuring? Are you prospecting at all? I mean, I believe that if you don't do 1 to 2 hours of prospecting a day, your business is going to be in trouble. It's a matter of time. Are we doing that? If you did, what did you do in your prospecting? I don't know if you guys have this, but we can make what's called hot sheets with our MLS, where we can watch an area, or we can see what expireds come on, and you can set it up so every day we can open up our MLS, our matrix, and see, oh, here's the new expireds, here's the new pendings, here's the new listings, and you can do it by zip code or area. And so you can see what's going on every single day in the market, where you're really being an expert. Did you work those? I used to work expireds. And so that was the first thing I did every morning when I came in, opened up the hot sheets for the expireds that were in the areas that I worked, and then we jumped on them. Did you work whatever lead week it is? So I don't know if you guys do this. This is something that I've learned from Workman Success Systems, is ABCs of lead management. An A lead is somebody that's ready to buy or sell, and it's going to happen in the next 30 days. So we have A leads. B leads are leads that are going to happen in 30 to 90 days. And then C leads are going to be 90 days or longer. So we put all of our leads in a category. And then what we do, and if you can see behind me, there's a whiteboard that's got Post-it notes on it. Well, the top line are my A leads, my B leads, and my C leads. And then what happens is your A leads, you talk to them every single week. Your B leads, you talk to them the second week of the month and the fourth week of the month. The C leads, you contact once a month. And so we work our ABC boards. And I try to teach the agents to do that, because then with me, and a lot of people have them on a computer, but I'm more visual. Tech is great and I like it, but it's not natural. I would rather walk in and have it in my face. I take it a step farther. The blue ones are what I need to do for my team. The next ones, if you can see them, are what I need to do for the office. So I put it in my face, what needs to be done. That's just how I operate. But if you'll do an ABC board and keep track of it, I use Post-it notes so that I can change them from C to A. I write when I talk to them on my Post-it note. But that's the lead week, A, B, and C. A is every week, B is every 2 weeks, C is 1 week a month. Do you post about on social media about maybe what's the builder inventory? We're not building fast enough in Kansas City. Did you get the builder inventory and send it out to your people that you're working, your hot leads, or the people you're nurturing, so they know you're paying attention to the market? Update your top 50 every time you talk to them. Make sure you make a note so you know, okay, I have Jim over here. He's ready to sell. We got to find something to buy. And we maybe have a buyer, but are we talking to them every week if they're an A lead? So here's my sheet of the A, B's, and C's of lead management. Questions on any of that before I move on?
How do you compile your builder inventory?
So we're small enough that it's pretty easy. There's not as many builders as there used to be. So it's old school method. We don't have any place to go get it. But we'll know subdivisions and who's in them, conversation in the office. We've got a couple of agents that list for builders, and they'll know the other builders, whoever the developers are. So it's pretty much done old school, referral based.
Great thing about builders, David, is you can call them early in the morning. Some people you can't call early in the morning, but you know you can always call your builders early in the morning. So
yep, they're up and moving.
Call them.
Yeah, don't call them late.
Do you know, does anybody here know of any, I don't know of any realtor that keeps an active builder list? I mean, I think that's a great idea.
Take it a step further, Jeff. Does anybody keep an active for sale by owner list?
Yeah.
No. We have a few. I know we have agents that work for sale by owners, but
they should have that list, and they should keep that updated, because what the key to the way we do for sale by owner is we're trying to find any buyer, and they want to find one buyer. One of the best things that we were doing before this happened is our best open houses. We were doing open houses for FSBOs. do a one-day showing, have the open house. If the buyer came and bought theirs, which never happened, we would do the discount at only one side, the buyer side. But we're looking for any buyer. We would pick up more clients without agents at those FSBO open houses than any open house we did. So now the challenge is for sale by owner, let me do a virtual open house in his house.
That's a great idea.
Great question.
That's been our #1 open house for probably a year.
Really? That's an awesome idea.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that builder list, I'm throwing that around in my head. I mean, we have such a big spec build market here that would be beneficial to, I think that would be a great list.
Yeah, just whatever else you think of, FSBO, we have people who carry the FSBO list with them because if they get a buyer and our market's been tight, we have 1.8 month supply on the market, which is really an advantage sellers even still. And if you have a FSBO list and you run into a buyer you can't find something for, you can take the buyer to the FSBO. And if you've already talked to them because you did an open house for them and you know that you can get to 3% buyer side, go do it.
You're converting a lot more of those for sale by owners if you're offering that kind of service to them too.
Absolutely. And then we end up I have one of my new agents, we had done the FSBO class, and there was 2 FSBOs within a mile of the office, and nobody had gone to them. I go, here's the deal. If somebody doesn't do it by the end of the week, I am going to go knock on those doors myself. Well, one of my agents got up, and that day he went. One of them shut him down. The other one, he ended up finding the buyer for it, listing it, and the person had an investment property, got 3 deals from one FSBO.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd been here a month. And he was going crazy. He's like, oh, this is so easy. Well, it's not that easy, but if you play the numbers, it happens.
Any more questions? Good to go.
All right. So now we get into some other things. Did you do a live video today on a listing? Are we out there doing that? Any sellers disclosures? Did we prospect on Zillow? I don't know if you ever do that. We teach our agents, make me move. And for sale by owners, we chase those down to where they're tired of us. But that's a great place to prospect is on Zillow. And if you're like me, do you ever have any past to-dos? It's been interesting. I'm an old school, so I have a paper calendar. I'm a day timer. And so sometimes I'll write stuff down and forget. And then I just go back through my day timer for a month. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this or didn't follow up. What's your to-do list or something you wanted to do and you never did? Have you reached out to clients that were online? If you do Lead Street, you can see them online in the last 24 hours, or if you're doing Boomtown or Commissions Inc. or whatever you're doing, Zillow, there's all kinds of things where you can see, and you can go back. Some of that Zillow stuff, they might have gotten on in 18 or 19 and they got on. Have you reached out to them? Have you done something for them, offered them a showing, sent them a seller's disclosure? Do a service. Don't just say, hey, I saw you on my site, or I saw you looked at a property. Be of service.
David, question. Do you have any concerns with agent safety on a FSBO open house?
No. We would take the same safety precautions we would do on any open house. We typically don't like our agents to be alone. We typically have a lender or somebody with them or another agent, especially a new agent. If they're learning, we like to send them along. What we're going to do in our virtual open house, we're going to have 2 people. One's going to be watching the comments that come on the scroll as we do it, so that the agent can handle them without having to, because he's going to be going through with his phone, and it's going to be hard to answer and hold your phone steady. So we're going to make that a 2-person operation. And like I said, we'll fail at this a little bit before we get it right, but fail forward is the only way I know to fail. I do a lot of that.
Good question.
So then we talk about safety, what's going on, and we coach everybody. We have our masks. We have all the things that we're supposed to do, social distancing, all that kind of thing. And so as this whole thing has been going on, and I think this is a really cool document. And we thought about, who do I want to be, or where am I? And we think about when this thing first started. I mean, you couldn't buy toilet paper in Kansas City anywhere. It was nuts. And it was a virus that attacks the respiratory system. I couldn't figure it out. Why toilet paper? But that's what happened. People complained. There was all kinds of things said because we lived in fear. And there's still people living there. But what about getting in the learning zone? Don't consume things that harm me. Food, news, there's all kinds of things that harm us. Let go. It's out of your control. You know, and I think people ask me, well, are you worried about your offices? I go, well, I'm not worried about them, but we have to take actions to protect them and just handle things. And we've done all of that because I feel really positive about it. Honestly, I've enjoyed the challenge. Know your situation, verify information, and like I said, don't judge, just acknowledge everybody's going through things. One of the worst things that's happened in our office is when there's stress, you find the problems. And we got a couple divorces happening, you know, so people are struggling. This is real. Then we get into growth zone, find a purpose. How can I help somebody? What kind of skills do you have to service people? You can show empathy, live in the present, focus on the future. And that's what we're doing. You know, when this started, I was on video with my people almost every day because in Kansas City, every day it changed. It was crazy. I was so sick of hearing myself on video and sending out bomb videos. But I think one of the things that we all have to do is take care of ourselves. And if you take care of yourselves emotionally and physically, it gets easier. And be grateful. I've been very blessed. We all have things we struggle with in life, but I've always had people around me that care about me and help me and get me through things. And I just need to, I think our mindset needs to be, I just need to learn how to adapt and then practice being calm. But I love this chart. I think it makes us all look at ourselves and where am I here? Am I living in fear? And we have agents in every one of these categories. And
David, a question that came up, what messages would you suggest agents post on social media and what shouldn't be posted? Do you coach agents on this?
we do. We do not. So I've taken away no bragging, no saying how fast I sold the house, no bragging on selling a house. Welcome somebody to their home. I'm okay with that. But I think it should all be positive. You need to be, I think that I need to be a light and I need to encourage people because we get so much negativity. You can't turn on the television without it being negative. I don't even watch the news. I get all my information from the CDC direct. They update every day at 4 o'clock and just get the facts and nothing else. It kills me. They talk about all these big numbers. They don't talk about the people who overcome it, the people who live through it, the people that, I mean, it's ridiculous when the percentages is so low. I mean, it's barely more than the flu, but we've blown it up. And so people are fearful. And so I just don't feed myself with that. Find good stuff. I don't know if you guys are fans of Darren Hardy. Darren Hardy does a Darren Daily. His one today was fantastic. It was about getting a parrot to fly. And the guy couldn't get the parrot to fly, so he got a farmer to try to figure out how to get the parrot to fly. And the parrot just sat on this limb day after day after day. So you know what the farmer did? He cut the limb. And the parrot flew. And then he goes on with more story about it. But he has just a 3 to 5 minute tidbit every morning, and it's really good. And he's really been on this COVID-19 thing. And he's been very encouraging. And I have agents that I've gotten on it. And even today, people texted me about his message. And so I think we have to fill ourselves with positive things, because when you're out trying to sell and you're desperate, people can read it. I think one of the reasons that I always did well was I was super relaxed and I didn't have to sell a house to eat tomorrow. And so I didn't have salesperson's breath. I stayed as a consultant. And the more we fill ourselves with the good stuff, it comes out. I used to say garbage in, garbage out. It's garbage in, garbage stays. And so don't put it in there. Anything else?
Nope.
Here's a document that some of my agents are using where they're getting really specific with clients. And just for you guys, just something that if you want to use it, great. Some of my people are doing it because this makes them be real specific and get deep in conversation. This would be what we would call a top 50 document that we would use. Okay, now I kind of mentioned I was a sports guy, and we talk about how we fail, and I talked about failing forward. And so I want to talk about failure a little bit, because we're all going to have to adapt and do things that we're not used to doing. And I think that one of the things as we look at our businesses, if you're not failing, you're not out there doing enough, because we're going to fail to learn. And if you don't fail, some people will work their SOI and they'll go get 99% of the listings. Well, in my opinion, that agent's not out there because they should be failing more often than that, because they're just taking the home runs. And if you really want to grow your business, you're going to have to get outside your comfort zone, and you're going to have to fail. And so I'm going to tell you a story. So when I was in high school, I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore, and we had a really good basketball team, and we were really young. We were sophomores and juniors, actually played a freshman. And my sophomore year, we were 21-5 going into district finals. We were seeded number 1. The team that was seeded number 2, we had beaten by 20 points 30 days earlier. So we get into the game, and we had a kid who played at Missouri who was an all-stater, and he was really good. And he fouled out. He got in foul trouble in the third quarter, and before coach got him out, he fouled out. And we're playing awful. I grew up in a town that sports was life, and the whole town would be at every game because we were fun to watch. The year before, our high school had lost 20 games, and to have this turnaround, they couldn't believe it. But what we knew was in practice, the freshman team beat the varsity every day, and we always felt like we should have played varsity. So anyway, we think we're pretty good, and then we have this success early, and the whole town's at this game, and we're playing terrible. Our best player fouls out in the third quarter, and we're down 10 when he fouls out. So if we go on, we crawl back in, and we get within 1, and we force a turnover. Less than 10 seconds left. It's crazy. We're coming down the floor. Everybody thinks now we're going to win. We've come back without our main player because we still had some really good players. And with 5 seconds left, I get fouled. I'm the best free throw shooter on the team. And everybody in my town, I go to the free throw for a 1-and-1, down 1, and everybody in my town thinks what? Game over. It's over. They played terrible, and they're still going to win this district championship. So I go up to the free throw line, and I take my time. I try to relax, and I short arm and chunk the free throw. We lose. And I'm like the guy in the blue shirt sitting on the floor. We go to the locker room, and it's still raw to me this day, and I can't hardly get up off the deck. Matter of fact, I couldn't even get on the bus. And they pretty much had to make me get dressed and get on the bus. It was a good thing it was a Friday night, because I would not have gone to school the next day if we'd have had school. I was crushed. And this happens in front of all of these people who adored me, and I felt like I let my team down. And I felt like I let my town down. My dad was a barber in town. His barbershop sat right across the street from City Hall. And everybody came through the barbershop and talked sports. All the men, it was conversation. It was horrible. I told my dad, don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I was crushed. I had a group of friends that after every Friday night basketball game, we had a pizza joint that we would hang out at, and they kept a room for us. And I had a girlfriend. No, I didn't do nothing. I went home and I crawled up and went fetal. And so it was brutal, and never had thought about it. I mean, then things run through your head. What do you do when you fail? It happens to all of us. And that was the first time I had failed like this. You know, and I tease all the time when I tell stories like, yeah, I probably need to go run track or golf where nobody else depends on me, you know, just chuck it. But what do we do? How do we react when we fail? And I think that's what makes us who we are. And I can tell you what happened to me that summer. I shot so many free throws, you couldn't count them. I put the picnic table on end in front to where I could hardly see the basket. And I shot free throws to where I could shoot them with my eyes closed, because that was never going to happen to me again. And so then we think about what fear does to us. It destroys our goals. Sometimes when we fail, we just give up. And that's not what fear should do. But we let it happen. So fast forward. So my junior year, I never get in the situation. I never had the position where I've got to make free throws to win a game. In my junior year, we go 25-5, end up in a state tournament. We have a fantastic year. My senior year, now we've lost our all-stater, and it's on some of us. I'm a senior, responsibility. It doesn't come up. It comes up in the quarterfinals of the state tournament. We're at Truman State playing a big game. Matter of fact, one of the kids on the other team played at Mizzou, and it's brutal. It's a back-and-forth game. You know, it doesn't matter how many points you score. I had over 20 points in that game. So did a couple other of my guys. It was just a wild game. And we got into the last minute, and guess what? Guess who has to go to the free throw line in the same type of situation? Whether they knew it or not, and I'm still the highest percentage shooter of free throws on the team, and I go to the free throw line. I got fouled enough that I shot 6 free throws inside the last minute and made 5. Here's the result. We went nuts. Now, and I look back, if I would have made that free throw as a sophomore, the odds of me making that free throw as a senior are not very good, because when success comes easy and I didn't put in that extra time, I probably would have missed that free throw, and that would have been more crushing than the one I missed as a sophomore. But because I failed, I became successful. And it stuck with me so much that I was fortunate enough to play 4 years of college basketball. One of the guys who played, I played in every game. I had a stretch in college. I hit 68 in a row, free throws. So that's what can happen. Failure is part of the process. And so it's not fatal. It destroys goals, but it's part of the process. So as we look at what this thing looks like going forward, don't be afraid of failing. We will probably fail in this first virtual open house. Something's not going to work, but we're going to figure it out. And then I'm going to teach everybody in my office how to do these things. And that's what we have to do. Step out, get uncomfortable. That's where the growth is. You know, speaking in front of people. When I went to college, I went to a liberal arts school, and you had to have speech to graduate. I took it as a senior, because there's 2 things I never wanted to do in my life, was be in sales and public speak. And you see how well that's worked out. Not very well. So anyway, that's what I've got. Hopefully that encourages you, gives you some thoughts and ideas. Any questions, comments?
I don't see any questions yet.
That's a cool story, David.
It's brutal.
A great story.
Wayne Frederick, one time I was talking to him about Jacob. Jacob was having a really hard run at golf. And he asked me, he said, I said, man, he is so down. He said, well, what's he doing every day? And I said, well, he's practicing. He's got a swing coach. He's got this, he's got that. And he said, there's no way around it, only through it. And I said, what? So what'd you say? And he said, there is no way around it, only through it. He needs to do what he's doing now, and then he needs to enter tournaments so he gets real life pressure situations, and he either gets them, he either does well or he doesn't do well. And I thought it was great advice. And the more I thought about that, you know, we've got, it relates to real estate so well, because we train, we spend time doing things like this, and then we practice our scripts, but none of that replaces live interaction. Nobody can help you when you're alone with a seller, or you're alone with a buyer, or you're negotiating that hard deal. You just have to do it. And every time you get a little bit better at it. And I just appreciate stories like that. I think it's so true.
So you know what we're doing right now, Jeff, and you'll crack up. We are we do 2 trainings a week, every Tuesday and every Thursday. On our Thursday training, we are making one agent, and we're rotating sellers and buyers. We're making one agent be the listing agent, and another agent, because we're doing it by Zoom, be the seller. And we're doing it virtual, and we're making them do it on the screen in front of all of us. And I can tell you the first time or two, everybody was so nervous, but we've settled in, and it's a safe room, and it's been unbelievable. We've recorded them, and we've gone back and used it for teaching points, and everybody who's done it has been so glad they've done it, because they've improved immensely. And we're making, my goal is for every agent to do it. Mm-hmm. We're at 8, our 8th ones are tomorrow.
That's awesome. We went to a Howard Brenton deal one time, and there were like 300 people in the room, and they randomly picked people to, you know, I think they still called it listing presentations at that point. And I got lucky enough to be randomly chosen. There were like 4 of us up on stage, and I was sick to my stomach. It was terrible. But it does something for you. After you do that a couple of times, you get to realize it's not going to kill you. And that's a great idea. I don't know if any of you should never have said that out loud with a whole bunch of our agents on here.
I think about the time we were in the room. That wasn't that long ago. Were we down in Oklahoma when, was it Frost? It wasn't Frost. It was one of the safeties that used to play for the Chiefs. What's his
John
name?
McGraw.
John.
John McGraw.
John. Yeah. And he told us he was going to, well, I can't remember exactly. He basically told us we were going to have to stand up and share our numbers, or share, I can't remember what it was, but it was, you were going to have to stand up and talk, and he was pointing to people, and he was talking about your heart rate and just getting your mind right into that, getting into that spot. And it goes right along with that. It's when you're not practiced, whenever you're not taking the time, if things just kind of come easy to you, oh my gosh, we talk a lot of it. You do not want to practice when it's live. So nobody loves to practice.
That's how I grew up in this business. I blew a lot of deals.
Man, it's expensive.
It was expensive.
I remember when he did that too. And then he let us sit for like 2 minutes, and it seemed like 20 minutes. And then he said, okay, how did you feel? Because people were putting their heads down, and, you know, other people were like looking at him, and if I stare at him, he won't pick me, you know?
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, I did last year. Because I've been doing a little bit of speaking, I went to a national speaker training event, and the past president of the National Speakers Association and 2 other of them were judges. And we had to have a 7-minute speech. And the first day was, and we had to have it when we came. The first day they went through a lot of things, which was really good. I got a really good book about how to run a mastermind meeting, how to behave when you're on a panel, all these things that when you're in public. Before I went, I really had worked in our sales training, because I used to say a lot. And hopefully I didn't do that today, because I've really worked that. I used to have someone in the back room, every time I used an idle word, raise their hand to me. So I knew that I did it. But boy, breaking some of those habits, and then being that nervous the night before, I did not sleep when I knew when my presentation was. It was crazy. And I'm like, this is stupid. And there was only 24 of us. I speak in front of more than that a lot every week in our training room. There's 50 plus. But boy, when you're under pressure like that, and I'm doing something out of my box in a different location, and they had a timer that was like a huge screen, and we always wondered what happened if you went past your 7 minutes. Well, this air horn went off, and I mean, we all jumped out of our chairs. They wouldn't let you talk. That was it. And you got big points against you if you went past. So the whole time you're talking and you're watching this, 7 minutes goes fast, 6, 5, 4. And then when it got under a minute, it was every second. You saw something clicking down. You're like, ah!
David, Mel was talking, we were had a family discussion one time, and Mel was talking to her dad, and I was listening to this, and he was this was early, and he kind of had a hard time understanding what we did. And he was asking her, what do you do every day? And she said, Dad, basically I interview for a job every day, either with a buyer or with a seller. That's what I do. I just interview every day. And so, you know, I think some people kind of discount that parts of the conversation. Sometimes agents do. And Dennis said it again yesterday. He said those who adapt are the ones who will be the most successful coming out of it. And so I know that sometimes we talk about that stuff over and over, but you can't talk about it enough to me. I mean, I think that's for all of us. We have to change and put ourselves out there and be willing to fail and, you know, just keep trying to change and adapt. So I appreciate everything you've said. And I think there'll be a lot of conversation and ideas that come out of this that spur a lot of business for all of us. So.
Well, I appreciate you asking. Like I said, I think you guys have been so good to me, and I'm honored that you even thought to ask me. So, but I love what I do every day. I don't feel like I work. I love helping people, and I feel like I get to spend time with people that I love and care about.
That's awesome.
Can I add?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, again, David, thank you so much. You are always amazing. You know, and I was thinking the other day, and I don't even know if I told you this, Jeff, but I think what's interesting, the time that we're in, if we think about it, you know, we have been really preparing for this our entire careers. You know, and those that are new to this, I hope everybody knows we're here for you. You know, this isn't our first go around with an economic thing with the downturn, 9/11, but we've all acquired these skills that we can now actually use to our benefit. You know, we are a strong unit here. We have numbers behind it. You have experienced people and you have new people in our company that can bring different insight to it and different insight, our different ideas. So I'm just grateful that we have what we have here and people like you, David, that can come and give us a different perspective from different markets and different ideas. So thank you again for your time.
So, guys, thanks. Good luck to everybody.
David,
you're in good hands.
David, if you want to share some of those graphics, you can send them to me and I can make sure they get to everybody as well.
Oh, okay, perfect. Will do.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, see you guys.
Hope we can return.